the only thing I know that reference that Baba made to Valentine was in a little limerick that he wrote to Dr. Harry Kenmore, and yeah, I'll sing it, but it goes, "It's the law of love divine. You must wither, you must pine. You must suffer, but not whine. Speak no words, write no lines if you long. If you long, if you long for Valentine. If you long for Valentine." So that's the reference to Valentine, coming from the Avatar himself.
That's beautiful. That's something Baba wrote, you said?
Yeah, he wrote that to Harry Kenmore. He used to write little limericks to Harry, and Harry would come back with some clever thing in return. They had a very, yeah, very, a kind of, Harry called Bob a pop, my pop, and Bob would refer to him as his son. And yeah, so he was, and he was quite a character. One time, without any permission, like near Guru Prasad in Pune, down the block not far was Bund Gardens, famous gardens in Pune. And without telling Baba, he flew all the way to India, and then called Baba from from the Bund Gardens, and saying, would I be able to come and see you? I don't think he told him where he was, but he was just down the street, and so Baba said, "Okay, come." Didn't even ask for permission; just came as a surprise. And being blind, it's not easy to travel, but Harry was he was truly fearless, really fearless. He'd head down the streets of New York, with his cane, and just didn't worry about a thing.
I just started reading the book.
Yeah.
What an amazing thing. He
There's
was fearless. He just headed out. He didn't wait to figure out how. He had scars and bruises, and he almost ran into subways. And
he once fell down an elevator shaft. They were doing repairs, and he didn't see, and he went to get on the elevator and went down a couple of floors. And I can't remember, but I mean, he got up and continued walking.
I think he had to teach that day or something. He just went treated patients or something. He just went on with his day.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah. Hey, Jay.
Oh, yeah. I was just reading. Hi. I was just reading about that in Mehrwan's book, maybe like a month ago. And it was amazing. Like, this is what Mehrwan said. He said he was so angry with himself that he fell in, that he went back up and took the elevator back down after falling. I don't know. He just wanted to get it right or something. Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
One time, he was always after me to get a career, or what are you going to do with your life, Jeff? And every time I would see him, he said, "Well, what have you come up with?" And I did not have a clue. This is when I was living in New York, and he was always on my case. You got to have a career. You got to arrange your life, and I just was not getting any hit from Baba. And then a buddy of mine came out from Seattle, and he was meeting Harry for the first time. I brought him in to the society center there. And so we're sitting there, and I introduced my buddy, a guy named Ken Rickstad. And then he turns and asks me, well, you got that career yet? And I said, well, no, I don't. And then Harry says, the trouble with you, Jeff, is you're just a mad dog roaming the face of the earth. He makes this declaration like he's an Old Testament prophet, like laying down my fate. A mad dog roaming the face of the earth. But I never was offended by him. I mean, he would he was overblown and larger than life, and when he would say these things, he would blast all of that anxiety about what I was going to do with my life for about a month. And then it would start to build up again. What am I going to do with my life? Bob would tell me what to do and everything, and then he'd lay into me again. And it would just clear the decks. I would walk out of there, oh my God, I don't have to worry about that anymore. He was very powerful. Yeah, when he would say the Master's Prayer, Baba said he went up 7 flights to say it. I don't know what that means, but I know he told me that he had gone past the 4th plane of infinite power. He had to deal with that. I mean, he was, but when he said the prayer, it was like a hurricane came into the room. I mean, with a group of people, and it would be like the hurricane would come, things would be flying, sun scars would be flying, and even the shutters on the windows would, when they're gone, and, and then he'd end. And like the place would be just emptied out of whatever. It was really a beautiful experience, So he would kind of blast the room, because he would say it not, in a nice soft voice, or he would just say it like everything was a declaration. Yeah, quite a guy.
Are there any recordings of him saying it?
Yeah, there are some, but you would really, and I've heard them, but you'd really have to turn the volume up full barrel to get the impact of what it was like. Yeah. What a character. It was very valuable, the times I spent with him. And then we have in town here, we have Larry Karish, who was kind of like, he was kind of a father figure, you might say, for Larry in growing up. And his perspective is beautiful, not just of Harry, but his own meeting with Baba in 52, 56, 58, and 62, I think. Larry was with Baba, yeah. Yeah. Anyone have anything that's something that comes up before we...
Yeah, Jeff, can you say more about Harry going past the 4th plane? I never heard that. What is that?
Yeah, I mean, he would tell me these things kind of under his breath, so to speak. But his presence was so powerful that while I was living there in New York, the vibration coming out of him dissolved about 95% of my physical awareness. Whether I was with him or away from him, I couldn't even feel my feet under me. He was so refined, disguised in quite a boisterous, kind of New York, what would you call, an oversized New York personality. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, but sometime I'll share some of the times with him.
Jeff, didn't he have such inner sight that sometimes he could see where he was supposed to be going, or would map it out ahead of time so he knew how to get to where he was going?
He may have had that. I know that he he told me he meditated for about 10 years. This is before he heard of Baba. And 10 years for Harry is about 200 years for a normal human being, because he was so intense. And he said at one point he was meditating in his office and suddenly he could see. He could see the room he was in. And what happened is he'd gone, beyond his physical eye, which was blind, and opened up the inner eye where he could see the room.
Wow.
In a high state of meditation, he was able to do that. But Baba, interesting enough, Baba, he had a lot of great, wonderful, what can I say, powers or healing, even healing qualities. And he said Baba just put a curtain around him and said, your job is just to remember me. And just enclosed him. But there were still abilities that kind of emanated from him, but he didn't consciously do any of that. At least as far as I know, according to his word. Baba just put a curtain around him, and he had Baba there and the people in front of him, and that became his world. Yeah. He was a character. Shall we have a few moments of silence? Jai Baba. Jai Baba. So just say a few words in the beginning here. We're coming up to a new chapter, and it's giving our all to Baba. And in it, Darwin reiterates what Baba said, is that the goal is not in the future, but in the timeless present. Not in the passing present, but the timeless present. There's a difference there. Meaning, Baba is not a future goal, but is found in this moment. And Erich, I think it was Erich who said, I don't know, but I think it was him that said, the destination is in our midst. A beautiful way of putting it. The destination is in our midst, right with us. It's like the future has just walked right into our present moment. But how is it possible to find someone so near? What is standing in the way? And Darwin has said, he coined this phrase, Baba didn't say it, but the personality self is a phrase that Darwin would use. But Darwin says we are so completely identified with our personality self. Angela, Jeff, Jacima, we're so identified and this personality self is really the embodiment of time. Where we want to get to is timelessness. But we ourselves are an embodiment of time, past, present, and future. That's what we are. We identify with our story, our history. We're here and we're gonna go there. This is where we're going. So by surrendering this vast accumulation of sanskaras called our personality self to Baba, we imbibe little by little his timelessness, some of his timelessness, some of his presence, which is beyond the hulk of our personality self, you might say. So we are going beyond time and space. And I asked, well, we're going from the unreal, we're giving up our unreal self for the real, for Baba, who is the real. So the more we kind of focus on Baba, the more we're dissolving our unreality, so to speak. I once asked Marwan Jesawala, that was Baba's brother, Erich's brother, I quoted Baba's line, live more and more in the present, which is ever beautiful and stretches away beyond the limits of the past and the future. And I said, Marwan, what does that mean to you? And he said, you will only find Baba in this present moment. You won't find him in the past or the future. He said people spend so much time thinking about the past and the future, and they let him slip away right in front of them. He made this gesture. They let Baba slip away right in front of them. So there's a Zen quote that I like. If you want to know, if you want to know where eternity is, it is no further than this present moment. If you don't find it in this present moment, you won't find it even in 1,000 years. That was Seppo was a Zen master. So, Baba, what Darwin is saying is that we are giving up our time-ridden self to Baba, little by little, sanskara by sanskara, and in exchange, we get some of Baba's timelessness and the immediacy of his intimate presence, which is beyond both time and space. So we're kind of moving into this whole idea of giving our all to Baba that's coming up. So,
Jeff, can I share something about that?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, it really hits home because right now Mara and I are packing up our stuff in our house to rent it out, and so I'm going through all this stuff from old boxes and photos and everything, and momentarily it took me into the past, and I felt like kind of out of place, and I had to kind of bring myself back to the present and Baba and all that. And another epiphany I had recently is that what you're just saying about stretching out everlastingly. It gave me the idea that the symbol for infinity. What it looks like, the 8 kind of sideways 8. It looks like for me like the circle on the left side is the past, the circle on the right side is the future, and the dot in the middle, that's like the present. So like the ever lasting present, as you just said, and it just stretches out beyond whatever the way you just said it.
And there's the passing present, and then there's behind it is the timeless present. That's what Darwin is encouraging us to step into, the timeless present, which it's experienced as being vast and expansive, but it's really Rumi calls it the placeless or the spaceless. Is he really beyond that? Anyway, we better get down to homework here. So Angela's going to call on people. I think everybody knows the routine. Yeah,
and you can pass if you want. It's page 47 of the book, 27 of the PDF, the section called The Gate of the Heart.
The Gate of the Heart. We are meant to see with the eyes of the heart and know with the eyes of our consciousness. Seeing with the eyes of the heart is a mystical seeing through which we perceive the inner path, the inner love of God. We see with the glow of love at the heart level. We must assert the supremacy of this glow of love by loving the Master, loving Baba. Love is not maudlin sentimentality, affection, or an emotion, but something much more refined and pure. It is a sense of oneness, illumination, unlimited freedom, and knowledge. A knowing, wisdom, and insight. It is the beam of reality, of truth. Love is reality. Reality is perhaps the best word because love causes the veils of falseness, of unreality to fall away. Meher Baba says that as we put our focus on him, he opens the gate of the heart and releases the glow of love, which changes our consciousness at the thought level. When we assert the glow of love in the heart, light is revealed. The heart then no longer accepts such misconceptions as low self-esteem. We do not try to love people per se, but instead make efforts to achieve the glow of love in the heart. This glow results in irradiating love and leads to a natural giving out of love.
Any comments or something to share or any questions?
Well, I could maybe just the part about heart no longer accepts such misconceptions as low self-esteem, because that's been my problem throughout my life.
Yeah.
And like some comments on that, because naturally, if your heart is no longer accepting, it's seen something, it's because if it sees something, then it's aha. So I guess there's no more low self-esteem, but just the step before that, that's I'm wondering if someone would comment. Thank you.
Yeah. In other words, you see your larger self ahead of you, and so you can no longer buy into your little small low self-esteem self. But that's a glimpse. But then, how do you get there? Is kind of what you're saying. How do you get from the smaller view of yourself to this larger self that you see yourself as being? You might say, right?
Yeah. I guess that the one thing comes to mind is that maybe trying to remember to say Bob's name during 12 o'clock and 5 o'clock, and when you get up and saying Bob's Jap, this focus on that moment when it's 5 o'clock. I said to Jan just before, I said it's I guess we've been talking about is just that's Bob has said, think of me then. If you think of that, it's like you've got the chance right then of saying hi to Pop, because it's all been set up. So if you follow that enough times, eventually me, all of us, but I will, focus more and more on that time. And once that starts to grow, then there's no such thing as low self-esteem, because you've seen something so wonderful that's with you all the time. How can you have low self-esteem then? Is that sort of what everyone's getting?
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's like a split screen. There's the low self-esteem side of the split screen, and then there's this kind of more expansive thing. Which one do you want to go for? And we're getting slowly converted from one to the other. Okay.
Jeff, can I say something on that?
Okay, yeah.
Ray, as Jeff was reading about letting your own heart radiate that love, sometimes we look at our loved ones or people we don't even know, we send them love. Baba is saying here through Darwin, radiate that love as the being that you truly are. You don't have to direct it to anybody when you're being it at that level. And here's the deal that this awoke me up, which may help you, because you're on a beautiful local train. I think this is a missile to Baba's heart, way beyond the moon. And it goes like this. You love Baba. I love Baba. We all here love Baba. And Baba loves us. Baba loves us beyond any imagination. And we know what love is from people who've loved us and people we've loved. But the love that Baba loves us on, what does that mean? In simple words, 3 words. You are love. And we have forgotten that we are love. That's our true identity, if you don't mind me really being frank. Because we've been told by our teacher in the 1st grade, Jeff, you got that wrong. 3rd grade, Jeff, why are you talking so loud? 7th grade, you're never going to make it to 9th grade. All a total illusion. It's all a complete programming in the negative And the truth is, we've been around with Baba at least this lifetime, many more lifetimes, I'm sure, all of us. And he's told us without saying it, and he said it, you are love. Radiate that love, know your true identity. And I'll tell you, when I really, really think about it and go beyond thinking, I heard this little poem, thinking is like drinking, but to feel is for real. And boy, when you feel the real, that Baba loves us, we love Baba, and we all love, because we can radiate that. And the last thing I'll say is, Ray and all of us, what is it all about? What's Baba saying? He's saying, I love you, you love me. Be love in action, in your words and in your actions. And the more you radiate that from the heart, just as who you are, you can certainly direct it to people too. Your love, your love, your love, your love. You're nothing else of those old thoughts. Your love, your love, your love. And I really, really mean what I'm saying, because it reminds me of the truth. And Ray, I was in the same caboose that many of us were in, low self-esteem. That's such a, I won't say the word crock, but I did. We know the real deal. And we are love. That's who we really are. That's my true feeling. It's not an opinion. It's Baba's truth. I don't know if that's helpful, but identify with who you really are.
Amen.
It's love.
Yeah.
I don't mean to go on, but we are love. That's our true identity.
Beautiful. Just,
Hey, Baba.
yeah, lovely.
And Laurice.
Wow.
Hey, Baba, everyone. Great discussion. I love this part of the book. It's good to be reminded. The first thing that comes to mind is, I don't have the quote right, but isn't it something like, when we call on Baba, he wakes up in our heart and he can't go back to sleep as long as we keep calling on him. And maybe you can correct me on that just after I finish this. But I like this phrase, see, these couple sentences. Seeing with the eyes of the heart is a mystical seeing through which we perceive the inner path, the inner love of God. Okay, so I perceive through my heart the inner path and the inner love of Baba. We see with the glow of love at the heart level. Previously, when we went through this, I started actually trying to look out through this level, like literally look at people through this level, and then I forgot. So it's good to be reminded again. We must assert the supremacy of this glow of love by loving the Master, loving Baba. So what this tells me is that if I focus on Baba in my heart, loving Baba, and seeing mystically through that level, seeing the inner love of God, the inner path, and actually for me, practicing seeing others at that level. That's just going to naturally, it says I don't even have to think about other people. It's just going to flow. It's really beautiful. Thanks.
Yeah. No, what you say is right there, Laurice, is that if you get the love will tell you how to relate to other people. If you're feeling that, it flows from there.
Do you remember that quote about waking Baba up in the heart?
Yeah.
How does that go?
Well, Mayor Prasad can get it for us, but I'm in everybody's heart, but I am sleeping. It is my old habit. But I think Mayor Prasad can probably bring it up. We'll go on to the next ones, but it starts out, I am in everybody's heart, but I am sleeping there. It is my old habit. Yeah.
Okay, hi. Well, I agree completely with what both Jeff and Lorraine said. And here in the second paragraph, the first line is, love is not maudlin sentimentality, and goes on. And then the next sentence, it is a sense of oneness. And I think that sense of oneness, that union with all that is, including the divine, is exactly the reality that is being talked about in at the bottom of that paragraph, the last sentence. Reality is perhaps the best word, because love causes the veils of falseness, of unreality to fall away. And focusing on that oneness with the divine, that oneness with all that is, because everything is a part of that oneness, is exactly what heals the low self-esteem, that heals all of those emotional problems that we have, that we think we're less than, that separate us. Separation, the illusion of separation, is that major veil that blocks us from seeing with the eyes of the heart. The truth is oneness, and it's a very gentle truth. It's not, it has to be seen with the eyes of the heart and not the intellect, because the intellect is way too complicated. It's a holy oneness, and all of those veils are released when that is our essential truth. And Baba gives us that because of his great love, love of everything. There's no separation there. That's what I had to say.
Yeah, beautiful. No, that the oneness is so is another beautiful way of expressing, getting out of the low self-esteem. How can you feel low self-esteem if you're asserting and embracing a oneness? You are much larger than the little private self, little isolated self. Yeah.
And Elizabeth Robinson.
Yes, the line that stuck out to me in these paragraphs was, we do not try to love people per se, but instead make efforts to achieve the glow of love in the heart. This glow results in a radiating love and leads to a natural giving out of love, which really kind of hit me hard, because I tend to think I should be loving people, but it's not that. I guess that's because if you're loving a person, that's just one bubble. But if you're making efforts to achieve the glow of love in the heart, then it touches every bubble in all of creation. And I guess it would give you the wisdom to know directions to go that are the most loving and therefore the most real. Anyway.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, the love will kind of spontaneously tell you where it would like to flow to.
So Baba says, I am in each heart, but I am sleeping there. It is my old habit. In order to awaken me, you should always call out to me, saying, Baba, 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 continuously. Then I, who am in your heart, will not find pleasure in remaining asleep, let alone sleep. I shall not find time even to doze. I am like the ocean you see before you, always ready to receive anything good and bad. All your thoughts, feelings, all and everything, lay them at my feet, be free. I am like the sunshine which falls evenly on all objects. But if a person holds an umbrella over his head, he does not benefit from the sun's ray of light from Guru. You have to close this samskaric umbrella in order to receive the light from the master. Only then will you tangibly acquire the light. To do this, only think of me in your thoughts. The umbrella or samskaras will be gradually closed as a result of my nazar or sight. Jai.
Yeah, beautiful. You know, going on this, there is a such thing as the eye of the heart. I mean, an actual sight. It's not up here, it's down even a little bit, you might say, at the heart level, and then there's a deeper seeing. But what Darwin is talking about, this is just one of the major ways of following Baba. Some people, they are just loving and they don't even think about any of this stuff. I'm just mentioning that because you think, oh, hey, I'm not seeing with my heart. I'm not feeling my way around with my heart. And yet you may be a very loving person. You're just not tuned in to the mechanics of why you are loving the way you are. So I just want to make that distinction there. I mean, this is kind of a conscious path into Baba's love and presence. Yeah. Okay. Spiritual fulfillment.
Yes, indeed.
Spiritual fulfillment. Meher Baba's discourses provide explanations about love and how we narrow down our consciousness when we really ought to do the opposite, expand our consciousness toward this kind of love. This brings us a new understanding of what fulfillment is. True fulfillment is spiritual fulfillment, which lies in spiritual expression rather than in obtaining objects or personal achievements. This is one of the lessons that we learn the hard way, more or less, because we do like to get things. So it is in giving, in allowing love to flow, rather than in getting, that we experience fulfillment. When we love, we do not need to have our love reciprocated because we are already experiencing fulfillment. Love is its own fulfillment, and to give is to be fulfilled. This ultimately becomes what Baba calls divine love, in which there is no thought of self at all. We experience complete dependence upon the grace of God within.
Ooh, beautiful.
That's pretty hard because I think just being human, we, on some level, we do want our love to be reciprocated, or if not reciprocated, at least some clue that it's been received in some way. So I know this can be difficult, and especially if we have, like we all do, different experiences of the hits to self-esteem that we've all grown up with. It's kind of hard to be independent. But I like to, being in Florida, it's interesting because it's getting a little warmer. And I always think about being prepared for hurricane season and so forth. And came to mind about a generator, and I was reading about generators, and it was mind-boggling. But then when you all read this, the previous section and this one, I pictured a generator just generating heat, or a heater, because I was trying to get the idea of how do we allow this love from Baba to flow to ourselves and others and be fulfilled. So anyway, that helped me to just picture Baba, just radiating it and trying to find something concrete on the physical to have an image of, and then kind of flow with that, So it's kind of neat, but still hard. This group makes it easier. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Heidi. Yeah, beautiful.
Good afternoon, Jay Baba, everyone. I was actually had my hand raised last time, and then I unraised it, and then I'm prompted to raise it again. And it's more in relationship to the how do we experience this place inside ourselves where then we're completely trusting and dependent on the grace of God within. And the reason this is coming up for me is a conversation was yesterday in relationship to the blue bus tours and the story about Elizabeth and her desire to have a cup of coffee and, you know, please, Baba, could I have the cup of coffee? So hard to get up in the morning. And many of you may know the story. Many of you don't. I think maybe somebody else who's read this in the blue bus. I haven't really read it. I've known the story a little bit. But the prompting of what Jeff has said, Jeff Wolverton said one time about coming back into a room where Erich had gone and the bus had been leaving and they remembered somebody's hat. So he goes back in and he sees Erich folding up all the chairs. And sorry, this is long, but this is getting to the point. And I'm sorry if I'm saying this wrong, but I think you said something to Erich, Jeff, in relationship to, oh, Erich, why didn't you ask us to help you with these chairs? And he said, well, if I had to ask, the story was, you know, you should have known your heart wasn't ready. So I'm somehow circling around the heart space of knowingness that prompts the trust and understanding that we are able to surrender into the presence, the timeless space, and be in that flow. And what was so wonderful about this story with Elizabeth was that it never worked. She could never, I mean, she could have her coffee, but it would either fall off or she couldn't have it or the brakes would jump. The whole thing is she never got it, and she should have listened to Baba. I mean, and just not have, you know, she should have known. And here she is driving the God man around in the 30s with that doubt. I mean, for some reason, I finally got that here we are being honed in the same way somehow through effort and grace, through these constant meetings, through the tapestry of our karmic knots with each other and how we're going to continue all of that. That, I mean, I found some great relief in knowing that we'll get there. And at the end of the life, through Charles's wonderful book about the day became the answer, clearly through Elizabeth's life and how she was able to continually transmit her growth and her Baba through her, that she just came totally resigned. And somehow that heart space was, she was the living experience of that divinity, and it came through her. So I'm sure that's really the graduate level, but it has been up for me these last couple of days in terms of conversation, and it seems to apply to me somehow here, and I'm not really even understanding how, but you know, to really love freely, because it's not us, there's no us doing the loving. I mean, that's the thing. The personality drop soul has emerged back with the ocean of love, which then becomes the current. Jay Baba.
Yeah. It becomes a vehicle for the love instead of a base of operations.
Yeah.
Beautiful, Patty.
Yeah. And Laurice.
Hey, Baba. So what stood out for me was we're going to expand our consciousness towards this kind of love. And of course, Baba has said that he loves me more than I can love myself. And that true fulfillment, so brings us to an understanding of what fulfillment is. And that true fulfillment is spiritual fulfillment. Sorry, that noise is here in this house. Which lies in spiritual expression rather than in attaining objects or personal achievements. This is one of the lessons we learned the hard way, more or less, because we do like to get things. So it reminds me, when I meditate to a picture of Baba for 10 minutes, and then I look at a picture of Mira for 10 minutes. And one time, probably in the last month, I heard Baba say to me, let me just give a little background. So I'm in a business community where we're encouraged to set goals, financial goals, achievement goals, kind of with the law of attraction, that what you stay focused on manifests. And there's been times when I've had a little bit of like, what about Baba, blah, blah, blah. What Baba said to me was, really apropos to this statement about true fulfillment is spiritual fulfillment, which lies in spiritual expression rather than in obtaining objects or personal achievements. He said, spiritual, I don't have it exactly what I got, but like spiritual progress is the most important thing. The spiritual path is the most important thing. And to be very clear why I'm wanting the things I'm wanting. He didn't say it's not okay what you're wanting or what you're doing, but that in that achievement, the spiritual path must be the highest part of it, right? So whatever, and the implication is I could want to do nothing, but of course there is don't shirk your responsibilities, right? And still follow the spiritual path. But of course I want to follow Baba's will for me. But whatever I'm wanting, he said, to be very clear why I'm wanting it, in alignment with the spiritual path, and that the spiritual path must flow through all of those endeavors. So I thought that, that was like, oh yeah, that's very apropos to what we're reading here, is that the most important thing is the spiritual path, no matter what we do. Thanks.
Yeah, beautiful. I like what Darwin says there, and we do like things. I mean, there's a little tongue-in-cheek, and we do like to get things.
Giving Our All, Chapter 9. Start off with a Baba quote here. The whole creation is a play of thoughts, the outcome of the mind. It is your mind that binds you. It is also the mind that is the means of your freedom. You are eternally free. You are not bound at all. Meher Baba. The soul is never contaminated. It is eternal, sovereign, free, pure, untrammeled, and untarnished. And we are that soul. This is our great consolation, that we are the soul. We are free, so let us be free. Give everything to the Master and be free. Enjoy freedom of the heart, freedom of consciousness. It is a great privilege to be incarnated now. Become free in this lifetime. The ultimate reality is not an object apart from us, apart from everything. It is all-inclusive, timeless, and already here among us. Jesus said the kingdom of God is within you. It is within each one of us. It is not something that is in outer space somewhere, nor is it in the future any more than it is in the past. It is not an object in the future, but is always in the present, and it is always here with us. Only one person here and there becomes aware of it, but sooner or later it is everyone's destiny to realize the ultimate reality and be free. Jesus gave us the key to realizing the truth with his words, "Leave all and follow me." Leave all your attachments and impressions. those numberless things that bind you so firmly to your limited self, and follow the perfect master or the avatar, who is, Baba says, the only one beyond the bondage of sanskaras. He leads us to our infinite self, which is always within. Accept the Master's infinite being as part of your nature. Accept and be sustained by his grace. Grace is not something we achieve, but something we receive. It is not something we add to what we are, but is what happens when we learn to let go of our backlog of burdens. It comes as a pure gift and is an expression of the Master's love for us.
I think Darwin spent a lot of time, I think, in the soul. He wasn't entirely there, but he was in that great limitless freedom. And then he was trying to get the rest of him over there, dissolved in that limitless ocean. So he's not just talking about it theoretically. He was someone that was going there. Yeah.
Marcia?
When you surrender and trust everything that you do, think and speak, good or bad, to Baba, and you do that in the morning and at night, and then you take his name and try to be mindful, then you realize, it came to me, that Baba's been inside all of us since time began, like we're the same soul. But so, okay, just give me 1 minute. So anyway, he's already in there, and I'm embarrassed that I lost my thought. But anyway, if you trust him, I realize that my lower self, I don't have to go there because Baba's in me and he's the higher self, because we're all Baba, right? And that I realize the lower self is when you make yourself more separate. And then when you start to be in step with Baba and feel him inside you, that you feel his presence, and you sometimes even, you let go of all the stuff. And this is a kind of funny story. I always do these walks when the weather was permitting. It's kind of cold here now, like 1 degree, so I can't walk too far. But anyway, I was walking around and, thinking about Baba, keeping Baba in my mind and looking at the sun. And then I said, there's something holding me back from really letting go of all the things that keep me from being really free. So I said, Baba, cut this away, cut this cancer out of me, right? And then I had this appointment once a year where I go to get, things checked out. And I had a little spot on my cheek, right? And so I went and found out I had to have this little thing removed. And that was cool because I just kept thinking, well, Baba says if you're suffering, it brings you closer. So I kind of took it as a really good thing, right? So I'm sitting in the chair, and all of a sudden I remembered when they were poking on me, I was thinking about Baba, and I said, wow, you got to be careful what you ask for, because he really did a serious thing here, But I didn't feel bad about it. I feel pretty good. Like, I really do feel more free. It's kind of weird. So, he lets you know he's really there. And then happy birthday. It was Betty's birthday, and I was listening to all of you on YouTube because I missed the concert. And then in the middle of the night, I got up and I was taking an art class, and I drew this picture. We were supposed to do textures, and I didn't work it. And then listening to your concert, all of a sudden on the bottom, it said, like, at your lotus feet. And one of the songs in the concert was that. So I'd like to send this to Betty because it was like, came from Baba, So anyway, I'm done. I'm rambling. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. Lovely, Marcia. Beautiful.
Great. And Elizabeth Robinson.
Yeah, so I guess again, I focused on the last paragraph. Accepting the Master's infinite being as part of your nature. But the part that kind of caught my attention was the concept of grace and what it is. Well, the paragraph before it talks about Baba being the only one beyond the bondage of sanskaras, and that being the reality, and then being sustained by grace, but not something we achieve, but something we receive. But it's interesting the way they talk about the receiving it. It's not like that it's not adding something, but what it is a what is kind of thing. It is what happens when we learn to let go of our backlog of burdens. So a release of sanskaras, I guess an unveiling. But it's interesting to me that it's something that just happens, you know, and it's letting go as opposed to an actual receiving. So nothing is added to. So, you know, it makes me wonder about a recent book discussion. We were talking about the nature of zero and ones. The zero doesn't add anything, you know, it doesn't add value. And it's like, this is because nothing can be added. Anyway, the ramblings of the mind. Okay.
Yeah, no, I think we kind of got you there. Yeah. Yeah. We're all kind of up to the same kind of struggle and effort here.
I just really love the little, these two little quick sentences here. Darwin says, it is a great privilege to be incarnated now, become free in this lifetime, with the exclamation mark after that. It was neat. I'm not really into sports too much. My dad has been a fanatic his whole life, was a coach, played football pretty seriously in high school. And but anyways, you know, I remember he would always talk to me about the best players and what made them like that and how good some of these players are. And he would always tell me, you know, it's rare that somebody has like a really good natural ability that takes them that far. He just said, you know, they had somebody in their life, like a father or a high school coach or somebody that just told them that they could do it, you know, that it didn't matter if it looked like they were the underdog or that they looked like they didn't have good ability. That, you know, if you practice and you're determined and you keep your eye on the goal, you will make it. So a lot of those guys just believed it and, you know, kept working at it. So it was really neat, you know, and reading some of the stories of really great musicians too, and seeing those similar qualities of how they just had their practice routine every day and they'd run over their scales and they'd do this and that. So it just really touches me reading that, just, you know, how open to all of us that goal is, and how much Darwin just really, you could see how much he believed it, you know, that he believed in that goal for himself, for other people, and that this is doable and we can all make it to that. So it's nice. I feel like I need to keep reinforcing that in my life to never lose sight of that, you know, this really is possible if we believe it and work at it and have the determination he had in J. Baba.
You know, there's a line from Rumi where he says, if the door of your soul were to open for a moment, you would see that the heart of every existent thing is your intimate friend. But that door is right there. It could spring open. I mean, like Darwin was, it could spring open, and suddenly you are ushered into a very expansive experience. You know, it's not way off in the distance, in the distant future. It's a beautiful thing to know that it can happen, and a kind of an openness to it happening randomly, spontaneously is a great attitude to have. This, oh man, I got so many lifetimes ahead and everything, and that creates a veil over these spontaneous things that could happen from Baba. Yeah.
I was saying, I think Darwin is very gracefully super optimistic here. I feel, and I mean, his phrase about it is a great privilege to be incarnated now is totally accepted by my mind and heart. But when he says become free in this lifetime, I would say to Darwin, well, I don't know. Okay. Particularly, at least he, he lay out of what could we achieve and what to expect from the grace of the Master, particularly the last paragraph. But it is my understanding that to receive a Master's grace, it's not perhaps that easy either. The love that Baba has in mind, not the love that we believe we have for him. No, not that. The love that perhaps at Mandali level, I wouldn't say Mera, that's beyond any imagination, but some of the Mandali, those kind of love, I always felt, especially he talks about it in Lord Meher, Volume 4, is not something to be earned, it is something to be received, his grace also. And Darwin talks about it. So it is my understanding that his grace is something, and then he says, there are two different quotes. He says, make me tempted, love me more and more and more and more, till there is no other thoughts but me, like that. And in my case, I don't see that being there, and that I have always his thought, always have him in my mind. I have him in my mind most of the time, but not all the time. And that's my challenge, especially when I'm attending to my bodily duties, which is quite a bit, trying not to shirk it. So, yeah, and also another thing that it is my understanding is some of our past sanskaras, some of our very, very deep, past sanskaras are not even, could be removed by the perfect master or Sadhguru, whomever, in one's lifetime. Those particular sanskaras can be released when we die. Some of these sanskaras only released when we finish one lifetime and then go back to balance sanskaras and come back again. So with all that little thing that I know here and there, I just don't think becoming free in this lifetime is so simple. Thank you, Jay Baba.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. I mean, there's one thing of being free, and there's one thing as feel free. I think we can reach a state where we feel free, and that is kind of can lead to eventually being free. But feeling free is, hey, that's great anyway. Take that, enjoy that. If you can cultivate that with Baba, and then if toward the end you get actually free, hey, that's icing on the cake. But it is possible with Baba to feel kind of free in your life by as in this next section, withdrawing the tentacles of consciousness from being bound in things. But yeah, go ahead. We've got a couple other hands there.
Heidi?
Yeah, I found something from a 2009 Baba calendar, and it looks like the source is The Path of Love, page 98 to 99, but it's about love and grace, and sort of like effort and grace too. So I'll just read it because it has some practical steps to grace that Baba said. So Baba says, what is love? To give and never ask. What leads to this love? Grace. What leads to this grace? Grace is not cheaply bought. It is gained by being always ready to serve and reluctant to be served. There are many points which lead to this grace. 1, wishing well for others at the cost of oneself. 2, never backbiting. 3, tolerance supreme. 4, trying not to worry. Trying not to worry is almost impossible, so try. 5, thinking more of the good points in others and less of their bad points. What leads to this grace? Doing all of the above. If you do one of these things perfectly, the rest will follow. Then grace descends. Have love. And when you have love, the union with the beloved is certain. When Christ said, love your neighbor, he did not mean fall in love with your neighbor. When you love, you give. When you fall in love, you want. Love me in any way you like, but love me. It is all the same. Love me, I am pure. The source of purity. So I consume all weaknesses in my fire of love. Give your sins, weaknesses, virtues, all to me, but give. I would not mind even one falling in love with me. I can purify. But when you fall in love with anybody else, you cannot call it love. Love is pure as God. It gives and never asks. That needs grace. That's from The Path of Love.
Beautiful. We should keep that on hand from time to time and keep that kind of nearby. It's a great reminder.
I have it in my drawer with the book Effort and Grace.
Okay. We'll pull that out every now and then. Yeah.
Yeah, couple of things I wanted to say. This is just based on my experience. May not really resonate with everyone, but when I feel jealous or hatred or angry against someone or something like that, any of those, I found that it really helps to remember that I don't identify myself with them, meaning that I'm not a jealous person, but I have these feelings of jealousy. Or I'm not a hateful person, but I have these feelings of hatred. And always remember that my original self is Baba. And that helps a lot. So the second thing is, about this freedom, I never really found interest in getting free or liberated or any of that, because it takes away the fun of really longing for Baba and loving Baba. So I never felt attraction towards getting free or liberated. So I actually pray that I don't get liberated, because Baba says, remember me at the last moments. I don't want to do that.
I agree. I feel the same.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I've always felt the Mandali wanted to put off the alarm clock going off as long as they could, so that they could spend a little more time in creation, serving Baba and having the opportunity of being with him. They didn't want that.
Yeah.
It's a whole different approach. A lot of people are going to get free, and they're actually don't get me. I don't want to get near the edge there, because it gives them more time.
It takes away the romance part of it.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And Marcia.
It's like climbing up the mountain instead of landing on the top in a helicopter. Making the journey is the beauty of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's well said.
That was a metaphor that Baba gave. Someone came and asked him if he could have God realization. You're God, you can give me God realization. And and Baba said, you know, what if you were climbing a mountain and you're all engaged in that, and someone came along in a helicopter and said, I can just take you right up to the top. Would you agree? And the guy said no, because the journey and the whole climbing, the enthusiasm is part of the fun of it.
Tentacles. As the soul, we are beyond Maya, and nothing can bind us. However, we must withdraw our consciousness from the realm of ego desires and develop love for God, love for the Master. I liken the withdrawal of consciousness from the gross realm to withstand invisible tentacles. Like those sea creatures whose tentacles constantly float out trolling for food, we extend unseen tentacles into the gross world, seeking experiences. Spreading out our tentacles only binds us all the more. In other words, to express our desires is to multiply them. So why do we reach out for things in the world? We are seeking distraction. We feel that something is missing, that we will be happier if we have this or that. Really, we are looking for truth. We get distracted by Maya and then seem to forget that God is what we really want. Baba said most of man's suffering is self-created through his ungovernable desires and impossible demands. All this is unnecessary for self-fulfillment. If man becomes desireless and contented, he will be free from his self-inflicted suffering. His imagination will not be constantly harassed by feverish reaching out toward things that really do not matter, and he will be established in unassailable peace. Thankfully, we are constant learners, and one day we will learn to direct our forces within. It is a matter of maturing. True spiritual progress is best made by the mature person, one who is ready to turn away from the gross realm. As I have said before, I feel that part of Meher Baba's manifestation is to drive everyone to the spiritual life. But even when people are following a spiritual path, many are not aware that they still have tentacles groping for things in the gross and subtle worlds. So at the outset, we have to learn how to withdraw these tentacles and direct them inwardly. Not that we're going to become introverts per se, but we become explorers within. We are going to explore who we are and what we have inside each of us, such as our sanskaras. We need to become aware that we already have unlimitedness and inner freedom, and make use of them in our consciousness. Okay, Bob.
Ooh. Any comments?
I was going to say that's a nice image to keep in mind. Anytime if we're inwardly aware, we feel these tentacles reaching out, we can actually visualize. That's something we can visualize and say, hey, time to withdraw.
Yeah, it's a great metaphor for how consciousness kind of seeps into things and gets, he made a distinction, like it's one thing you can be aware of the gross world, but not have your tentacles where you're enmeshed in it, enmeshed in the objects of the world, but certainly keep your awareness of everything. I know Adi said the world is like a museum. Everything is under glass. You don't get to touch it. I mean, that was his metaphor. I thought it was pretty good. Anything to say there? It's a great metaphor.
Can someone explain it?
I think this is what I was talking about earlier about, basically setting out tentacles, desires about what I wanted to manifest. And Baba was saying, don't, watch out, like make sure the spirituality is the most important thing, and be clear what you're asking for. So what I find important about this, Elizabeth, is that, he's saying, withdraw from our consciousness the realm of ego desires and develop love for God, love for the Master Baba. Then he's also saying, why do we reach out for things in the world? We're seeking distraction. And boy, there's a lot of, people talk about binge watching. There's so much distraction, right? Addictions, there's so much distraction. But even for us as Baba lovers, for me, there are things I think I want or need or whatever. So he's saying that we're seeking distraction. We feel that something is missing, right? My son scares, I'm not good enough, blah, blah, blah. It's unconscious, right? That we'll be happier if we have this or that. But really, we're looking for truth. Well, we're getting distracted by Maya and forget that God is what we really want. Boy, I relate to that. How many times have I had a dry period with Baba, and then I come back to Baba and I'm like, I've missed you so much. And, I'm reconnected. God is what I really want. And that most of man's suffering is created through these ungoverned desires and impossible demands. So it's really, he's just saying, come back to withdraw the tentacles and direct them inwardly. Not introverts, but explorers, to see what we have inside us, which is very apropos for what we just read too, about going into the heart, saying Baba's name, and to be aware that we already have unlimitedness and inner freedom, and make use of them in our consciousness. I hope that was helpful.
Yeah.
Jai Baba, I was thinking about that I definitely have things in my life which are requiring my love and attention. People who are in pain that I love, or that kind of thing. How is that different from tentacles? I think that I love that. I'm very glad I came to this meeting for this, because I think that it's just not to allow myself to stretch out into illusion. And what happens is, by doing that, I bring all of that and all the ones I love and all the things I'm concerned about into me. It's not that I leave the world, it's that the world becomes part of me, like we read in the first section, the oneness. So then all that love that I am experiencing and all that closeness, I am coming closer to Baba, that brings all and everyone with me. So drawing in the tentacles. Yes, thanks.
Yeah, excellent, excellent, beautiful. I don't see any other hands up, but Elizabeth, here's like a graphic example of tentacles. Suppose I get like a brand new Alfa Romeo and I've got it out on the street there, and I'm in the house enjoying things, and suddenly I hear a screech and a crunch of metal and everything. Oh my God, that's my new car! And I run out there and yell at the guy you ran into, because I'm so identified. My tentacles are so into this vehicle that if you dent this vehicle, you're denting me. You see what I mean? But going a step further, Darwin says that this vehicle, we are a vehicle. So if someone insults this vehicle, I'm identified with this Jeff Wolverton. So if you say something insulting, I say, hey, how dare you do this? We are even, the biggest thing is identifying with our personality self, so that if somebody hurts us, they're not actually hurting us, they're hurting our vehicle. But I'm saying this, but it's not easy. Darwin used to say, sooner or later, you discover you're nobody, and that is not an unhappy discovery. So it's very hard to think that we ourselves are our own Alfa Romeo, and there's a place behind it that can't get touched. And that's a lot of work to get behind the personality self so that people can, say things or have wrong opinions about us and everything, and it doesn't dent our vehicle. So that's kind of a graphic way of seeing it.
Marcia?
How does that tie in to creating this provisional ego? So like if you're doing things and you're in tune with Baba, that you don't attach to these things, and then you don't create, you can have some scares, but they dissolve quicker. That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I think if I'm my own experience, if I do something out of love and someone doesn't like it, it's not that big a deal, because I had the privilege of doing something out of love. If it's liked or disliked, it's not a big deal, because it somehow got done through me. I'm not like invested in it. So it's kind of a well, anyway.
Jeff, would you mind repeating what you said earlier today about when you do something wrong or you do something right? Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Earlier today, you mean like?
When we were at the thing for Arnavas Remembrance, and you mentioned, Baba said something like, when you do something wrong.
Oh, yeah. This is what Baba said to Arnavas. I say it's a very unfortunate truth, where Baba said, it is nothing to give in when you are wrong, but it has spiritual value to give in when you are right. Sometimes we can be right and we have to give in, because for the sake of harmony we have to swallow the fact that we were right.
Yeah, I think that has something to do with the tentacles being removed.
Yeah. Yeah, the tentacles of being right, being identified with being right, are let go of for the sake of a more harmonized love. You may have to, you may have to back down on. I mean, I have, like I say, I've got people in the neighborhood who have quite different opinions of me about the political situation, and I listen, but I don't have to assert my ideology, because for the sake of the harmony, the neighborliness, that's more valuable than making assertion of my viewpoint, which I think is right. You know what I mean? Or more right. Anyway.
Thank you.
Oh, I just want to say thank you for sharing that, Jeff. That's really lovely. I really, really needed to hear that today.
There's that song, Put on a Happy Face.
Yeah.
So I'm making up a song, Put on an Impersonal Self. You know, we've heard sometimes this expression, don't take things personally. But put on an impersonal self, even for a little bit, because I'm so conditioned over the years to take things personally, even though I know sometimes that the person is so out of touch with the real reality, a small thing, a medium-sized thing, or a big thing. I'm saying to myself, maybe it helps other folks, rather than take things personally, in a way, assume that there is an impersonal self within us. It's that beautiful self that does not get bent out of shape or take things personally because we're attached. I heard a teacher once say years ago, become uninsultable.
Yeah.
That's a pretty difficult challenge. However, now, some years later, you know, if I can put on a happy face, and we all can, I can put on an impersonal self a little bit, and maybe a little bit longer, and a little bit longer. I can put on a different vibe, a different record, a different story that works. Because to be impersonal and not take a lot of those things personally gives me a tremendous freedom. I don't get caught in the tentacles of attachment. That might be helpful. And really, I'm going to put on that impersonal self more and more in little, 5 minutes, an hour, a little bit more, because I'm allowed to change.
Yeah. No, beautiful. Beautiful, Jeff. Just be your uninsultable self. You'll get there.
So, you're talking about being uninsultable. So, what I have a hard time with is if something is said to you, something that's negative, but it's about what you have done, except if you don't remember at all what this was, then I have the issue of, okay, is this subtle sanskaras? Is this, what is it that, did I really do something? Or is this person just totally misunderstanding? In other words, how to make sure that I haven't done something that I need to correct, and knowing the distinction. Anyway, I know I'm talking in riddles, but maybe you'll get the gist.
Yeah, no, I think we understand that, and how to deal with that situation,
Yeah, what is the approach? I mean, first, if one has really done something that's hurt or whatever, whether intentional or not, that needs to be corrected. I mean, and one wants to not repeat it. But at the same time, maybe the other person just totally misperceived something. I mean, especially if a person doesn't even remember what it was.
Yeah. That sometimes apologizing for something that you don't even know what you did. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. I'm sorry if that inconvenienced you, Sometimes you can do something like that where you don't know and they're not able to remember. I mean, the Mandali had to apologize for things that the other people should have been apologizing to them for. That's an outrageous tool in your toolbox.
Yeah. So what I was really trying to say is, yes, you can become uninsultable, but if something doesn't affect you, or you can't remember it, and you don't have a reaction except to be flabbergasted, where is the wisdom that tells you what needs to be done? First, you do need to apologize, no matter what it is. The apology is always important because, of course, one never wants to hurt or harm anyone. But anyway.
For me, if I were in that position you described, where I would try to be, I'm not saying I would always be there, because I can get my feelings hurt or be flabbergasted as well as anyone else by things like that. But where I'd want to try to focus would be on my opportunity to be more at peace with what's going on, to not be flabbergasted. Like, I would want to take my pulse first, give me the oxygen mask first, and then just be honest, and once I gained a little oxygen, say, well, I don't really remember this, and and then to say, I can be really unconscious, and I can, so I'm sorry if, if this interaction, I'd like to understand it more. Can you, rather than trying to solve it, can you share with me what you felt? And, because I'm sorry in my unconsciousness, so, this occurred and obviously you're upset about it. Now that's where I'd like to be coming from.
No, excellent.
Not always where I am, and to
Yeah.
see it more as an opportunity for me to grow within myself, to care more about the other person instead of be defensive within myself and concerned about my feelings or whatever. But I can totally relate to what you're saying. I think we've all been there a million times.
Yeah.
But that was just what occurred to me.
Excellent response. Excellent. Let's have a few moments of silence, and then we'll see. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Very,
Jeff,
very touching to hear all this. Well, yeah?
is there some way we can get that quote that you were talking about to Arnavas? Maybe, I don't know if you know a source for it or somewhere we can get the wordage, because Larry's looking for the words.
I think I know the exact words, but I think it's in her book too.
Okay.
Gift of Grace.
Gift of Love, yeah.
Gift of Love.
Okay.
There are two of them. The two. One is that there's nothing to give in when you are wrong, but it has spiritual value to give in when you are right. And the other one is that always had a powerful influence on me, which is Baba said to Arnavas, I didn't ask you to feel me, I asked you to love me. And that's a very profound nuance there. Yeah. Because when you're not feeling Baba, you can think that you're not loving him, but that's not necessarily true at all. I used to, when I was young, I'm thinking, well, I'd be feeling Baba, and then I lose the feeling of Baba, and I said, what did I do wrong? I'm not feeling him. Oh my God, but the love is there on a different track.
Jeff?
Yeah.
Someone told me recently that Kitty said, Kitty Davy, that someone asked her about feeling Baba, and she said, I haven't felt Baba in years.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
that's
that was
true.
But you just clarified that, it's about he wants us to love him, not to necessarily feel him.
Yeah. And Kitty was so loving, and but I haven't felt him in years, So it's, you don't think that because you're not feeling Baba that you would do anything for him that he asked you. If you were asked, you'd be surprised. And you don't have to be in the mood, so to speak, to be loving. You can be, it's just not. Hey, I was thinking, I wrote something up from my, from what kind of Darwin and Erich conveyed to me about giving to Baba. It's kind of a rough draft, and if some of you, I could email that to you if you're interested more. But it's how Darwin kind of, in a very low-key fashion, conveyed how to give to Baba, giving things about the giving of ourself to Baba. You might find it interesting, and it comes right out of some circumstances and everything. Yeah, this was back in around 1970 when we were kind of scraping by. We had a lot of stuff back then, especially to give to Baba, being young and full of all sorts of wants and desires and everything. Yeah. So, anyone have anything to? Let me just check here a second. So, Stu was feeling a little bit dizzy, I think. So, anybody have any anything to?
Well,
here's one thing that has occurred to me more kind of clearly lately. It's something to ponder. I mean, like when Baba has his full attention on everyone, each one. I mean, he's over there with Ruth Apple, and he's over here with me. He's there with Elizabeth, and he's with Jeff Aspel. How does he do it? I mean, full attention. I mean, if our sanskars would clear around, we would see that he has been there focused on us the whole time. And so this is what a phenomenon I have when I go to sleep. When I'm going asleep, I'm thinking, oh my God, I get to go to sleep and Baba has to stay awake. And then when I wake up, I kind of like, Baba's still there. He's been there all night, awake. And I'm just taking these little luxury sleeps. I mean, it's kind of laughable, but at the same time, it's a fact that Baba stays awake with each of us all the time. It's incredible. There is the line that I quoted of Baba's that he gave in Guru Prasad, where he said, the same theater, the same show, the same actors, 24 hours a day, eternally. And I have not only to stay awake, but smile and clap. These are Baba's own words. I mean, he's saying it with a sense of humor. The same theater, the same show, the same actors. We're the actors, 24 hours a day, eternally. And I have not only to stay awake, but smile and clap. I mean,
Yes.
who can do that? There's only one person in creation who can do that. And I felt like Erich, we were talking about this earlier, I felt like Erich didn't want to have to leave Baba. Because they know how hard it is for him to be here. And, they don't want realization because they're no longer able to help him help him in any way they can. It's a whole different approach. They're not getting anything for themselves. They're doing all that they can for Baba to make his life a little less painful, a little less suffering, whatever. Anyway, those are kind of thoughts I've had lately.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I remember hearing a poem years ago when I first came to Baba. Someone brought this poem to a meeting, and it was an Indian woman. And I'm not sure, I just know that in the poem she said, "Please don't take me, because I want to stay here and help those see what I see now." I guess she was an advanced soul, and she didn't want to merge because of all of us still here in ignorance, and she wanted to help bring us up to that place of knowledge about who Baba is.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Bodhisattva, is that like Bodhisattva?
Yeah, that's the Bodhisattva path. And you probably, some of you know this story, but there was one of the early Mandali named Pleader, who came to Baba in the 20s, maybe the early 20s, I can't remember exactly, and he wanted to get God realization, and of course Baba is the one to give God realization. So he was insistent, so Baba put him in the post office, the old post office there, and he was on just a milk diet, and he was there for a long time, maybe a year, I can't remember, and a lot of things that he went through. He was one of the early Mandali, and eventually he went to Bombay. He was there, and in 1938 he came out to Mehrabad, and they were up on the hill putting the second floor on the converted water tank and Baba's tomb and everything. They were in the midst of working on that, and he and I picture this kind of right nearby, near Baba's tomb, or future tomb, and Pleader says, Baba, you said you were, you would give me God realization. It's now 1938, so years have gone by. And right at that moment, Pendu is coming by. He's concentrated on this work, and he calls Pendu over and says, Pendu, I'll give you anything you want. What do you want? Nothing, Bob, and goes on. So you got one guy here who's going for God realization here. The other guy doesn't want anything. Truly doesn't want anything. And Karish has said that they felt so complete with Baba, having nothing, but they felt complete, that Karish said if a perfect master came up and offered us God realization, we wouldn't even be interested. They had that feeling of completeness with Baba, and no interest in that. Can you imagine? That's what Karish said. Baba gave them a feeling of completeness. They didn't need anything, and they were not alone. He was there. There was nothing they needed. This is after Baba dropped his body. They still felt he felt so complete. That was the greatest gift, rather than any kind of transcendent experience. Yeah. Anything come up? I mean, anything that anybody has to share about, especially times with Darwin and Jean, or the Mandali?
I'll tell you, the first time I remember seeing Darwin, I was coming through the center, through the path by the guest house, and as I came around the bend, this man had his foot in the bushes, and there was a cardinal sitting there, and it looked like they were having a talk, and I interrupted because I just came along.
Yeah.
And I'll just never forget it. It was like, there he was with this cardinal, just they were so close to each other. And he just turned to me and beamed at me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. The first time I only met Darwin Shaw once, but I remember it so vividly. Just like, I remember Mehra meeting first time, Mehra, when I was 9 years old. I didn't talk to her, but I only said Jai Baba. But that image of saying Jai Baba to her is so imprinted on my, consciousness that I never forgot that, even though I was only 9 years old. Same with, Darwin Shaw. I was in the center in 97, I think it was. And I was walking down this path with my wife, and both of us were walking. And I saw Darwin Shaw walking across this was my first visit to the center. And he was walking from the left and going somewhere. I don't remember where he was going, but I didn't know he was Darwin Shaw. I didn't know any of the Western Baba lovers at all at that time. But when I saw him, something really striking I observed something very striking about him. He was very, very extremely humble, and I just felt drawn to him to say Jai Baba. So I walked. He was walking on a path that was completely out of my way, but me and my wife, both of us went to him, and I said Jai Baba to him, and the way that he responded with his Jai Baba was really, I don't know how to put it, but I never forgot how he said it. It was the most humble Jai Baba that I ever saw. The only other one was Mehra. It was striking. And many years later is when I found that it was Darwin Shaw. I didn't know that it was Darwin Shaw. Something really attracted me to him. Just drew myself to him. And I can't forget the way that he said Jai Baba. It was very, very humble. And, Wendy Connor said, I think in one of the meetings recently, that people ask her, how do you remember when you were only 6 or 7 years old? How do you remember all these events that happened so many years back with Baba? And she said that it is because the source of it is from love. That the source is love. That's why you can remember all of that. And that is so true. Even though I was like with Mehra, I was only 9 years, I still remember that image of her saying Baba to a 9-year-old. And same with Darwin Shaw.
Yeah, it comes from the timeless, so you have no problem in remembering it at any time. Beautiful, yeah.
Most of the Mandali had that quality, Even Adike Rani, the first time I remember seeing him was about when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and he would come to this town called Nizamabad, and he would give these talks. Of course, I never understood what he was talking, but I was hanging around with other kids my age, playing there while he was giving his talk. The image I remember was this kind of an image of a lion sitting on the stage, and there are hundreds of people sitting, but nobody was able to move or say anything to whatever he was speaking, and he was just like really like a lion sitting there. Even in Amartiti times, he would sit on the stage on the chair, and nobody had the daring to say or do anything that he wouldn't like. He had this ferocious presence.
Yeah, he had those eyes, those X-ray eyes that could kind of see all the way through through your ego to the soul behind it.
Yeah.
It was hard to be in front of a pair of eyes that can see you much more deeply than most people are able to look into. But thank God he was not really judgmental, but still, it's uncomfortable to be seen that intimately. I mean, your thoughts and your emotions,
Someone today was saying that very thing, Meher, about that fierceness, and he was looking fiercely at something. And then, I don't know, someone appeared over here and he turned around and there was such love and softness in his face. Yeah. So he went from the fierce to the loving.
Yeah.
Just like that. But those beautiful, deep, dark eyes could just...
Yeah. Bill, any remembrances that come to you? It's hard because you spend all this time, they talked about Arnavas today, and I spent a lot of time with Arnavas, but it was just being in her presence. There wasn't any specific thing.
Yeah, it's hard for me to recall anything specific. Just I first sat in that living room at 2 Castine Street in 1974, having met Michael Siegel at the center some months before, and he told me all about Darwin and his meetings. He said, you won't believe this guy. He said, you can even see light. And, Michael was talking about some experiences he had. Well, that attracted me, so I moved up and roomed with Michael and several other of his college roommates. We started going up to the meetings every third week. Yeah, and I think the first meeting I went to there, I just sat on the floor, and there was Darwin in that chair, beaming and just radiating so much of Baba's love. And I said, this is my home for a while. And I just stayed on, week after. Saturday night was totally reserved, as it was when you were there, Jeff.
Yeah.
And Sunday brunch and Sunday afternoons too. And the meeting would go all weekend. And
We concocted.
Darwin had these great slides and movies, Super 8 movies, regular 8 movies. It was a treasure, all emanating from that tiny little living room.
Yeah.
What city was that in, Jeff and Bill?
Schenectady, New York.
Schenectady. Wow. So you go there on Saturday afternoon, stay Saturday night, and come back.
The meetings would start at 7:30. Usually I had to wait here throughout the 1980s. My apartment, which I still have, became the crash pad for people coming from Boston and Cambridge and New York and Western New York and maybe everywhere, even people passing through, like Robert Dreyfuss and Clive Adams, they would pass through and people would just crash wherever I was living. So we had to sort of gather everybody together and go over to the meetings. And it was great having all those. I still got a guest register that I bought at the Bazaar in Ahmednagar because I had everyone sign in for about 9 or 10 years. And it's amazing just to go back and look at all the people, many of them living in Myrtle Beach, that came for those meetings. I think we had 13 one night staying here, and they had to stay over because there had been a blizzard in Boston, and quite a number of them. It's just, it was really something. Really something.
It's beautiful how seemingly natural and ordinary these things all unfold,
Yeah.
Just putting up some people, and we concocted all sorts of ways to get together with Darwin and Jean, usually 3 times a week. I mean, Wednesday we would come up with something, and we were just coming up with all sorts of things, and we'd and they'd go along with it. Oh, we got to go out to a cafeteria. Let's go out for a cafeteria. And Jean was always, she didn't like to cook so much. So hey, the idea of going to a cafeteria was great. So then we'd meet them there and ask all sorts of questions and everything.
Jeff, do you remember any of the classic Scotch jokes that Darwin used to tell? Darwin used to love to tell a joke once in a while.
Yeah.
You see him crack up and beam like the Buddha when he just told this incredible. Do you remember any of those jokes, Jeff?
I don't remember them well enough to. He was Scottish, so he.
There was once.
Remember about the airplane?
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of. Do you remember that?
Well, I'll tell some of it, and you fill in the details. The Scottish guy, who's they're usually cheap, and some guy's trying to get him to go on a little flight, in the airplane, and he tries to kind of talk him down to get a cheaper flight. He got it down, I think, down from $25 to $10. If you don't say anything when you're up in the air, if you can keep absolute silence and not speak the whole time, I'll take you up for $10. So
he had his wife with him, Jeff. He had his wife
with his wife. Yeah, he was with his wife and everything, and this guy goes up and he does all these loop-to-loops and everything in the plane, and they land and everything, and the guy says, you won. You didn't say anything. And the guy says, yeah, but I almost spoke up when my wife flew out of the plane. I almost broke my silence. Here's one. I remember the definition of mixed emotions. Watching your mother-in-law back over a cliff in your new Lexus. Oh, hey, we got Ken. Oh, wait, no, we did have Ken Nunsick here a little while ago. Let's see if he's still here. No, because he went to a lot of those meetings. Yeah.
Jeff, do you remember one about apple pie?
Not.
All I can remember, Darwin would say apple pie, and but I can't remember the joke. It was such a good.
No, we had the beautiful thing as you get older, gratefulness goes on increasing. Grateful for all these, especially with Baba, the beautiful times that we had. You can't help but feel grateful. Even hearing about Arnavas today, boy, I had to kind of fight back the tears. You know, how, I mean, we just didn't realize it. I didn't realize at the time that we were there with some of the most beautiful and loving souls on earth. And it just was hard not to, I never took it for granted, but I didn't feel the gratefulness that I do now. Yeah.
I remember a joke Money said once. This is about little Johnny. Little Johnny and his mother are going on a bus, and all the seats in the bus are taken, and little Johnny and his mother are sitting, and then there is a old woman that came into the bus, and she's standing. So the mother tells him, "Johnny, get up and give her the seat to sit." So he gets up and he gives her the seat, and then he says after some time, "Mommy, are we here in the world mainly to help others?" And she says, "Oh, why, yes, that's right, Johnny, we are here to help others." And he says, "So what are all the others here for?"
Yeah. What exactly are others here for? That's good.
I was listening to a song in Mandali Hall it's probably from 1980s, and I was not sure who sang this song. Can I share this song for a little bit, and maybe one of you can tell me who sang this song? It's very beautiful. Let me know if you want to stop whenever you want to, Jeff.
Yeah, no, let's hear it.
Not that the volunteers would have wanted to be down there. They would have much rather wanted to be up at the tomb or where all this was going on. But when you did things that you knew that he would want and not what you would want, that would always make Baba happy. Those are the flowers that have the fragrance. These are the little offerings that always reach him. And when we heard all that, I was very, very happy and proud. And I want you to know, whoever's here who've been volunteers, please note. I suddenly remembered because I saw Dr. Ann tomorrow, and Pat had mentioned her especially too. And isn't her... My little ducky, you flapped your wings enough, did you?
She lost 10 pounds in 3 days.
You lost 10? There is never a dull... Wait a minute, I'll be volunteer next time. I must lose 10 pounds.
How did you do it?
He's a friend, he's a friend, he's a friend of everyone. He's a friend of all, he's a friend of all. He's a friend, he's a friend, he's a friend of everyone. He's a friend of all, he's a friend of all. Grocer working in a store, mailman coming to your door. He's a friend of all, he's a friend of all. Old man sitting of all. Seamstress sewing up a stitch, batter waiting for a pitch. He's a friend of all. He's a friend of all. Surfer looking for a wave, yogi sitting in a cave. He's the friend of all. He's the friend of all. He's a friend, he's the friend, he's the friend of everyone. He's the friend of all. He's the friend of all. Circus clown with a funny face, astronaut in outer space. He's the friend of all. He's the friend of all. Teacher on her way to school, children splashing in a pool. He's the friend of all. He's the friend of all. He's the friend, he's the friend, he's the friend of everyone. He's the friend of all. He's the friend of all. Blind man walking across the street, granny fixing up a treat. He's the friend of all. He's the friend of all. Baker cooking a loaf of bread, a couple going to church to wed. He's the friend of all. He's the friend of all. He's a friend, he's a friend, he's a friend of everyone. He's a friend of all. He's a friend of all. The handicapped and those that skate, the nobodies and the very great. He's the friend of all. He's the friend of all. True believers and those that doubt, shy people and those that shout. He's the friend of all. He's the friend of all. He's the friend, he's the friend, he's the friend of everyone. He's the friend of all. He's the friend of all. American and Russian too, Muslim, Christian or Hindu. He's the friend of all. He's the friend of all. White folks, black folks, yellow or red, the newly born or the nearly dead. He's the friend of all. He's the friend of all. He's a friend, he's a friend, he's the friend of everyone. He's the friend of all. He's the friend of all. Dad and mom and baby brother, sister, grandpa and grandmother. He's the friend of all. He's the friend of all. Emperor and refugee, Eskimo and you and me. He's the friend of all. He's the friend of all. He's the friend, he's the friend, he's the friend of everyone. He's the friend of all. He's the friend of all. Bob is the friend, Bob is the friend, Bob is the friend of all.
Jai Bob.
Can't imagine who that is.
Guilty, guilty.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's the whole range
Beautiful.
of Baba's. Baba
Was that your own
amongst
song,
all
Bill?
us. What's that?
Yes.
Was that
I'll
your
tell
own
you how that song, I'll tell you how that song came to me. I think it was the late 1970s, early 80s. I was living here in Albany, and I didn't consider it a very friendly place. It was very kind of conservative, and in fact, I nicknamed it the city of the hard-eyed people. And at the time, I was delivering special delivery for the Postal Service, and I remember I was sitting in my station wagon on Sherman Street, And the song started to come to me as like Baba was reminding me that he's the friend of everyone. And the lines just started to come. A few months before, Robert Dreyfus had been here for the weekend, and he had turned me on to Chinese poetry. He loved Chinese poetry, and I started getting all these translations. And the lines were very short in a lot of these poems, and that somehow set me up for writing some of the lines. So that was Baba's reply. I think sometimes songs come because they're meant for us personally, musicians, to get a message across. In fact, I remember the last line about the Eskimo. How did the Eskimo get in the song? Well, I was delivering a special delivery envelope to some lawyers down on State Street in Albany, and it had a kind of an unusual name on the return address. And I said, "Who's this from?" He said, "Well, that's from some Eskimos up in Alaska." So right away, the Eskimo got squeezed in at the last minute in the song. I remember Monty liked that song very much. So.
Yeah, no,
it's like that too. Iruch asked actually, how did the Eskimo come into this song? And yeah, I didn't know it was you who sang it. I loved that song so much. I played it so many times in my car.
In my musical youth.
No, that was lovely. That's the whole family represented.
And then people started lobbying me for special interest groups to put in the song, and I said, "Well, you can make up your own verses when you sing it. That's done. That song's finished."
No, that's great. And boy, you kind of got the feeling of Mandalay Hall, just the cheeriness, the laughter, the informality of it all. Hey, well, I think that I think I may get something to eat, and we'll see each other hopefully next week. Let's see. Anybody Payam, we didn't. Meph is there. Elowen. Elowen is. That must be not Elowen, but Inga, her mom. Yeah. Oh, there you are. Good. That's Elowen and Inga, her mom.
Actually, this is Farron. Elowen's on the
swing.
swing.
Oh, wait, that's Farron. Oh, yeah. He's got his hair long.
I know. He's shaved the front.
Yeah.
And is now keeping the sides long.
Oh, yeah, of course, that's Farron, but I couldn't. The nameplate was kind of hiding a little bit. I saw more the top.
Yeah, it's hard to see because the name's there and it's a small picture.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I see him.
Yeah. Yeah.
How old is Farron?
He's 7.
And then Elowen, how old is she?
She's 10 and Suddy is 12.
Wow.
And these kids have so much love for each other, and they go riding bikes all over the center the entire time. They're riding bikes, except when they run into the refectory and get some water or something, and then they run out again. Baba enjoys watching them. Well, hey, anyway, great to see all of you, and thank you, Bill, for writing that song.
Baba.
And Mayor Prasad found the culprit. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
We should have a Bill Cliff concert one time.
Yeah.
We have.
It'll happen.
Oh, we do? Okay.
We have, but we need another.
Yeah. And it's hard, it's hard to get music from onto Zoom. It's not made for music. So you have to buy a lot of expensive equipment to get music onto Zoom.
Someone has just donated me some of that equipment, Jeff. So
yeah, good. All right. Well,
beautiful song, Bill.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Beautiful song, Bill. Beautiful song.
Yeah.
Wow. Beautiful.
Yeah.